Recording. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Lucy. I'm the treasurer for the Kentucky chapter of the ACE Network for Women in Higher Education. I'm a staff member working in faculty resources for the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment at the University of Kentucky. And I'm really excited to be hosting a conversation today with two leaders from our college whom I have deep respect and admiration for. Dr. Antomia Farrell is our Assistant Dean for Diversity in UK Cafe, and Dr. Lisa Collins is Associate Dean Emerita for the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. I want them to share their stories today because they've both taken staff career paths to leadership in higher education, and I think it's really valuable to hear the stories and wisdom that staff leaders have to offer. It can be different and offer different perspectives than faculty leaders. And so I think it's really a strength of higher education that we're able to have both staff and faculty leadership at our institutions. Dr. Collins and Dr. Farrell, I'm going to start by just asking you to introduce yourselves. I'd like to hear a little bit about your career paths, where you started out, what steps and directions you've taken along the way, and what do you do now? So we'll start with Dr. Collins.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I was telling Megan before everyone got on that I hope I don't bore you to death. I don't know, but anyway. My career in higher ed, I've done other things in my life, but my career in higher ed started in 1982 at UK. And I started a job in the registrar's office as an editorial assistant. And I was making $6 and something an hour, which I haven't done the inflation calculator to see what that would be in today's dollars, but not a lot. I can tell you that. I was in the registrar's office for 14 years, and during that time received 4 promotions. And that's one of the things that I want to come back around to a little later on, is that how do women in staff positions in higher education get promoted? Because it's not easy. After many years, 14 years in the registrar's office, my extremely wonderful, good boss, mentor, who was the registrar then, left. Had he not left, I would still be there because I really liked working for him. His name was Dr. Randall Dahl. When he left, he said to me, Lisa, you need to be thinking about more degrees and you need to be thinking about promoting yourself because you just need to. So I took that to heart and went back to school, and about the same time, got a job in the UK graduate school. And during the time in the graduate school, I was promoted once. And then I went to the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment after 7 years in the graduate school. I started out in what is called the research office, and I was there for 6 years. And then I moved to the dean's office, and officially retired in 18, but I'm still doing a little bit of work for the dean's office and also with MIA, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. And during the time in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment, I received 2 promotions. So that's in a nutshell for me.
Dr. Farrell, can you go over your career path?
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon to each of you all, and it's an honor and privilege to be here today. And so I will say that my career really started as an undergraduate student. And so being an undergraduate student at the University of Kentucky, I didn't come in wanting to be in the agriculture field. And so I had a mentor that really exposed me to the opportunities in agriculture, natural resources, and related sciences. And he was like, Mia, you should think about an ag econ degree. And I was like, I don't think so. I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I am from the city. I don't know anything about agriculture, but little did I know how I would find a true passion for agriculture. And so as a student, I had the opportunity to earn an internship with UK Cooperative Extension Service as an intern for 4-H youth development in Shelby County. And that is truly when my life had changed forever. I knew that I wanted to make an impact in the lives of youth, but I knew I didn't want to be in the classroom every day. And so upon that, I got my degree in agriculture economics. And when I graduated, I became a 4-H youth development educator in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And so to kind of go full circle, my mentor was from Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And so when I went there as an agent, I was there to impact the youth of young people in the suburban, rural, and military base in Christian County. And so I love my job, very passionate about it, started a program for youth to introduce them to agriculture, natural resources, and related sciences, and really grew there. And I felt like I had to leave home in order to really learn more about myself and learn how I could be impactful in my community. And so as I was a 4-H youth development educator, of course, we had to get a master's degree. So I started a master's program at Murray State. But as I was in that program in the community, I really wanted to make an impact for my colleagues. I started to see the morale of extension decrease. I wanted to really be that person that was that cheerleader, but I really didn't know what that looked like. And so in everything that I did as a 4-H youth development educator, I was impacting youth, trying to build the morale of my extension office, but also very involved in community-based programs, programs at the regional and national level. And so I was really building up my portfolio, building up my CV during my career. And so I thought it was a great idea as a 4-H agent to then go get a doctoral degree. And so I said, if I got in the program, I would continue. So lo and behold, I was admitted into the program at Murray State. And so at that time, a position had come open through UK Cooperative Extension Service as a human resource specialist. And so my role was being the cheerleader for my colleagues. And so I was able to help with the onboarding process for our new employees, as well as our mentorship program. And full circle, I was then over the internship program that I was in which I was introduced to extension. And so I was in that. So I was a 4-H youth development educator for 3.5 years. Then I became the human resource specialist for about 2.5 years. And we never thought my predecessor would leave. We thought that he would live and be buried here at UK, but he decided to go to Michigan State. And so the dean had asked me to step in as the interim director for diversity. And I'll tell you all, within everything that I do and did, I made sure that DE&I was a part of everything that we did as far as our initiatives in both of my roles. And so it was kind of an easy transition, although I then had to start learning about policies, process, procedures, and really how and what made our organization move forward. But then a year later, I went through the interview process to become the assistant dean and director for diversity. And really, to make a long story short, I've been in this role for 3 years, but really have hit the ground running to really understand how we can make a culture change within our college. And so that is really where we are right now. And it's been a journey. It's been a wild ride, but I would not change it for all of the opportunities that I have received in these roles that I was in.
Thank you. You both mentioned pursuing doctoral degrees while working full-time. What was that experience like for you, and how did you manage it?
Lisa, you want to start, or you want me to?
I can.
Okay.
And Tricia Coakley, I've touched on this previously, but I found it very hard. It was extremely difficult for me, and I wanted to quit all the time. I can't do this. I can't work full time, and then at night and on weekends do this other thing that was very arduous and time consuming. And But every time I'd go see my advisor and I would say, I can't do this, he'd say, yeah, you can do this, you can do this. And he did put some things in place to help me, some independent study work with him that helped me get through the course portion of it. And one of the things that I had seen happen during my time at UK was I saw people who worked on a doctorate during their working hours. That was what they did. They worked on their doctorate as part of their job. And for some people, that's okay. That is by design. They arranged that on purpose. That wasn't the way it was with me. So I worked very hard to be careful to not take any day classes. Fortunately, I could take all these classes at night. And I made sure that I didn't spend any of my working hours on the coursework or on the dissertation. And consequently, I spent the last 2 years or so using all my vacation time, all my holidays, all my evenings and weekends working on the dissertation, because I didn't want anybody to perceive that I was working on it during working hours or that it was detracting from my job. So I kept those lines very clear. And when I received the degree, I sent a note to my colleagues in my office and I said, I low-keyed it. I just said, I just wanted to let you know I'm receiving a doctorate at commencement next week or whatever. And it was not met well. It was met with some anger and some frustration. And even though I had tried hard to sort of keep the peace with the whole thing, it didn't go well for me. And that's unfortunate, but I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that has happened to other people and probably continues to happen. From my perspective, I don't understand it, but I don't know. It was a very hurtful and odd situation to be in. Anyway, so Mia, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lisa. So I will say for me, the struggle was real, but I knew exactly what the reward was going to be. And so for me, I had to have a doctorate degree in order to advance in my career. And I knew that I wanted to be in administration. And so that is the pathway that I had to take. But I would say that I would not trade it for the world because I truly learned a lot about myself. And so through that process, there was a lot of self-evaluation, a lot of prioritization of my life and really where I saw myself now and where I wanted to go. And so it was a very challenging experience because I was in a hybrid program. So I was in Hopkinsville, which Murray is only about an hour from Hopkinsville. But when I had taken the position here in Lexington, I had to drive 4 hours once a month in order to go to class on the weekends. And so I said it was going to be a short-term sacrifice for a long-term reward. And so that is exactly what I did. But without the degree, I wouldn't be where I am today. But I will also say that that a doctorate is something that I've always wanted to obtain. I wanted to actually be a medical doctor. That didn't happen. And so here I am with an education doctorate, but it has served me well. And so I will say for some of you who may be looking at doctoral programs, to definitely make sure that you are ready to enter into that space. Because a lot of times we may say, okay, well, I want to get a doctorate degree, but it's a lot of long days, a lot of long nights, a lot of hours that you have to put in. But again, if you are ready to take that space and do that work, then I would definitely encourage it. If you're not ready, definitely, think about it, think about the pros and cons and understanding what is expected of you. But I would say, like my family has always told me, education is something that no one can take away from you. And so if you have the opportunity and want to pursue that, then I would definitely say to pursue that educational degree.
Thanks. Throughout your time in CAFE, you've both supported and mentored each other in different ways. Can you talk a little bit about some something valuable that you learned from each other, or something that you really value about the other's support? Mia, maybe you would want to start with this one.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, when I met Lisa, she was just like a gem. Let me tell you all, regardless if it's in her roles and responsibilities or not, she is the go-to person. And so when I started this role, Lisa has been very instrumental in the diversity, equity, and inclusion realm in our college. She has been on our diversity advisory council for countless years and has truly been a cheerleader. And so I knew that I could go to Lisa without any type of judgment, because sometimes some questions you have just don't seem like the best questions to ask. But Lisa definitely has an open mind and willing to help you to go any way that you're wanting to go. She gives amazing advice. And so I would say one thing that I have truly learned from Lisa from a mentorship standpoint is to advocate for yourself. And so you have different mentors and different folks that teach you different things in order to navigate through life. And so I haven't always been that person to advocate for myself. I'm that person that's kind of like, okay, got it done. All right, check the box. What's next? And so I never really celebrated the success or even celebrated the failures or opportunities for growth. But I will say Lisa has been that mentor that has taught me how to advocate for myself, but she also is very patient and willing to walk you through processes. And so, you know, she takes as much time as needed to really allow me to have that space in order to understand processes, and then also understanding the audiences that we serve. And so in my role, we do serve faculty, staff, students, and administration. And so the way that you deliver and what you're delivering definitely has to be different for all audiences. And so I have definitely learned that from Lisa. And then last but not least, I would say that she's open to change and willing to go on that roller coaster ride with me. And so the past 3 years has definitely been a roller coaster. We've had our highs and our lows, but I think we have finally made it to a point to where we are really ready to make this change and shift in our college. And so I would say without the help of Lisa, we would not be where we are today. So I really think mentorship is very important, but also finding people that can be in your corner and be your cheerleader and advocate, even if you don't let them know, you know, at the forefront that they are your cheerleader. But I think, you know, Lisa has been very instrumental in my development and in the work that we do in our college.
Thank you. It's really sweet. Dr. Collins, do you want to say something that you've learned from or admire about Dr. Farrell?
Absolutely. And Mia, thank you very much for that glowing statement you just made about me. I really appreciate that. It's easy to work with somebody who believes in their mission and is doing the kind of work that Mia does, as she said, to change the culture of the college, which is extremely hard to do. But what I admire about Mia is that, and what makes it easy for me to be in her court, is that she's making it happen. She has the wherewithal to work on this long term and in the big picture and the small picture. And so she makes it easy for me. And what I have learned from her is that you've got to persevere. You've got to not let the obstacles stop you. And I see her pushing ahead with these initiatives all the time. And I am just so, it makes me see that things are possible. It is possible to make this change. And so she's doing a great job with it. And so I'd like to sit back and watch her have all these successes.
Thank you, Lisa.
I appreciate being able to learn from and have you both as mentors, and to benefit from both of your valuable expertise. Changing tracks a little bit. One thing that's different for staff leaders in higher education than leaders that come from the faculty is that staff have no set career ladder along the lines of the tenure track that tenure track faculty have. So in the absence of such a roadmap, how have you decided when and how to make changes in your career or to seek promotion?
I don't mind to start. So I will say mentorship has been instrumental. And I say that because my mentors, so I have 4 mentors, and they all are mentors for different reasons. And so they have all been very instrumental in my development. And so, first and foremost, I've lived in various counties in Kentucky, and every county that I've lived in, I have been in their leadership program. And so, I think what is most important is that you have to develop yourself through the process as you are planning for other opportunities. And I say that because as I have been on different leadership roles and on different community boards and national boards, so on and so forth, it has really helped me to figure out what I have wanted to do as far as my career. And so as I have gone to national conferences and things like that, I have connected with people that are in roles in which I'm interested in, which I highly suggest you to do. If you are unsure about really which way you're wanting to go, I would start networking, because that's one thing that has worked for me as far as networking with different folks. We have LinkedIn now. And so, back in the day, it used to be creepy to drop a message to someone, but now this is the world that we live in. And so I have been on LinkedIn many times and have just kind of said, I'm interested in this role. What does this role look like for you? And, just asking different questions. But I just think it's very important to really build out that mentorship, but also building out your network to really learn how to navigate the system. And then, as I said, my predecessor was in this role. And so I knew what questions to ask, because I asked him or ask folks like Lisa, like, what question should I ask? What should I do? I may bring in a scenario, but it may be a scenario that is directly impacting me. But it's very important for you to ask those questions. And sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask. And so that also lends itself to kind of just ideating on, what opportunities could come from that. So honestly, mentorship and building my network and just learning how to navigate the system through connecting with those folks have really helped me in my career, and also seeking promotion as well.
So for me, it was a little different, as it's going to be different for everybody. And for those of you who are at regional institutions or maybe even private institutions, I imagine there's a wide range of you in this organization. And by the way, I applaud you for being in this organization. That's exactly what Mia is talking about, is creating those networks, getting to know each other, and having somebody you can talk to even informally about a situation or problem. Anyway, when I started at UK, and it's going to be very different at UK than it's going to be at another institution. I see some of you are from EKU. It's going to be different there. Is that I saw early on, intuitively, I saw that people who worked in central administration roles, like the registrar's office, like the graduate school, had more visibility. And if you have more visibility, you're going to have more opportunities. If you have more opportunities, you're going to have more chances to develop professionally. And I saw that happening. And so I sort of made a pledge to myself that I wanted to stay in those central administration roles as much as I could. Now, I did leave there and go to the College of Agriculture, which, if you know UK's campus, we are separated from the rest of the campus by this giant building that's called the UK Med Center. So we are truly separated, geographically separated, but separated, just people forget about us sometimes. So I knew I was sort of going out to the hinterlands, but at that point in my life, I was ready for that. I was sort of tired and said, okay, I'm done with this sort of chasing the ladder and I'm ready to go do something else and to maybe kick back a little bit. Well, I didn't get to kick back a little bit, but I knew I was taking myself out of a very visible role into one that was pretty invisible. But I don't regret it because it developed into other things for me. But keep that in mind as you look at career paths, is that if you choose to go off into a position that's not got a lot of visibility, you've got to make yourself visible. You've got to work at it.
Thank you. Building on this idea of visibility, a common problem that staff and women in general in higher education face is that they struggle to have their ideas heard or others take credit for their ideas. How have you all combated this issue in your own careers?
So I'll say one of the ways that I have combated it was to have people in my corner that don't look like me, but can say or give my message. And what I mean by that, sometimes things that I say or things that I do may not set well with some folks, but I have other folks that look like them to say exactly what I'm wanting to say, then it may sit better with them. And so long story short, that is the importance of having allies in your corner, because you don't always have to be the voice in the face. But I would say, back to Lisa's point of visibility is so important, because if you're that person that likes to work behind the scenes, it's great that you love to work behind the scenes, but if you're looking to move up and wanting to be in more visible roles, it's very important for you to have your name on that program that has directed or coordinated or done X, Y, and Z, because folks want to see how you have led, what you have done in order to develop yourself personally and professionally, and what you have done for your organization that you're a part of. And so I just think it's very important for you to build that allyship, but I think it's also important for you to build rapport and trust with your colleagues. And I say that because at the end of the day, we're all a part of a team. And so who can speak better for us than those that we work with or for? And so I just think it's very important for us to, one, advocate for our own selves, but also to have others that can advocate for us when we are not in the room. And then lastly, I already kind of alluded to this, but just knowing who is in your corner, because some folks may seem like they're in your corner, but they may be telling everything that you pretty much disclosed to them to not tell. And it has happened many times. And so I really think it's important for you to know who exactly is in your corner, who's going to advocate for you, and who's going to be that person that speaks for you when you are not in the room.
Those are very good points, Mia. And I say if we took a vote, we would all have experienced telling someone something confidentially and that being shared inappropriately. It just happens. And I honestly don't know how to avoid that. So damaging. It's so damaging to an individual for that to happen. But anyway, I don't know how you keep it from happening. I was never good at blowing my own horn, and so I can't give you any advice on that. In my most recent years, I worked with Trisha Coakley, who's on this Zoom meeting, and Megan Lucy, and they were terrific about blowing my horn for me. So thank you all for that. But as far as me doing it for myself, I was terrible at it, just terrible at it. Fortunately, I was in places where I had supervisors who sort of didn't make it necessary for me to do that. A lot of times, not always. So anyway, I don't know how to do it better than I did it. Let's say, how's that? Go to Mia, ask Mia.
So the next question might be a tough one to answer, but I'll put it out there. Has there ever been a time when you messed up or felt like you'd failed? And how did you bounce back from that? How did you find the resilience to continue on?
That's one that I had trouble answering, honestly. Because I will say I have a pretty phenomenal team, and I have folks that, I mean, we meet pretty regularly, and we get the input of our stakeholders and just ensuring that we are doing what we need to do through the process so that we don't have as many hiccups. But I can't say there is something that I've done that has been like a total failure that I regret. But I will say that I have a great team that I work with and for, and we get it done.
Great.
Yeah, this is hard for me too, but my mentor, Dr. Randall Dahl, who I just cherished the years I had with him being my boss. I learned so much from him. He said one day he had to fire an administrator in the office, and he did it very quietly. And then he brought us all together and he said, "This is what's happened." And he worked hard to keep the to not hurt the individual who was leaving, to make sure that individual had a soft landing and so forth. Anyway, I also had a situation where somebody needed to not be on the staff any longer. And that for me was, I felt like I failed that person. And it was very hurtful for me to have ended up in that situation where the individual just could not perform the job. And I felt responsible because I had hired that person. And I just felt like I was lacking. And I don't know if you ever get over something like that, when that kind of thing happens. You always want to avoid that, and you, in your mind, you work to avoid that by trying very hard to hire the right people for your team. But as somebody said to me one time, you might as well take a quarter and flip it, because you got a 50-50 chance. So I think maybe the chances are better than 50-50, but it happens. And when it does happen, it's an extremely difficult emotional situation for you as a supervisor and for the person who has to leave the office.
So Lisa has just answered this in part, but the next question is, what is something about being in a leadership role that you find difficult? And then counter to that, what's something that you find about being in a leadership role that's very rewarding?
I don't mind to start. So for me, what I felt or feel like is and can be difficult is trying to be everything to everybody. And so with being in a role around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility, and all that has transpired the past couple years, we're really trying to make sure that we are changing the culture in our college. And so as I talk about being everything to everybody, I also think what is rewarding is that we have priorities and initiatives in place and a strategic plan that has gotten the work that we're doing. And so I think it's really important for us to have that guiding resource to really help us stay to course, but also for us to remember what we have in front of us, but what we have completed and what we have initiated within our college. And so I think it's difficult at sometimes it can be difficult, but for the most part it is rewarding, because I have folks who are advocating and rallying and ready to see this change happen. And it's a matter of us continuing to do the work through our strategic plan.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the easy part and say what I find rewarding. And what I have found rewarding over and over again is identifying a problem, talking about it with the team, looking at solutions, and then implementing those solutions, and then watching the success of that solution, watching how the solution makes things better for our constituents. And for me, that has been extremely rewarding over the years and in a lot of different circumstances. What I find difficult about a leadership position is that, as one of the associate deans said one time, you give up your personal freedom.
Mhm.
And I couldn't disagree with that. When you think about it and you think about what you wear to the grocery store, you know, you give up some personal freedoms. You don't want to be caught, you know, downtown at the bar at 2 a.m. So not that I go to bars at 2 a.m. But anyway, so you do lose some personal freedom. One time I went to a job interview with the dean of the College of Dentistry at UK, and she said, if you come to work for me, she said, your job is to make me look good all the time, and that is your only focus. And I wish I had been strong. I really wanted the job, so I didn't get up and walk out, but I wish I had now. In hindsight, I didn't get the job. But if you go to a job interview and somebody says to you, this job is all about me and you making me look good, please walk out, because it's not about that person. It's some about that person, but it's about doing the job. And I've always been about doing the job. To me, that was the most important thing. But sometimes you get a supervisor, you get a boss who is just interested in looking good. And that is very toxic. And try to stay out of that situation if you can.
Thanks. You're both assistant or associate deans now, but you haven't always been. Could you each provide an example of a time that you demonstrated leadership or something that you're very proud of from an earlier stage of your career?
Well, I will say what I'm most proud of is the leadership opportunities that I have been a part of. And when I say that, so I am fairly young. And so I know a lot of folks are like, how are you so young and you have matriculated so fast and so on and so forth. But I will say I am very ambitious. And if I don't have to sleep in order to get work done, I won't sleep, which is not a good advice at all. Which work-life balance is something I'm definitely working on. But I will say what is most important is for you to get into leadership opportunities. If it's a leadership program, if it is a women in ag program, a program like this one, just getting involved in different programs and being in leadership roles. It's one thing to be in, but it's another thing to actually be in a leadership role. And so what you are wanting to do is you want to be able to tell folks the experiences that you have had and how you will bring that experience to the organization when you are looking at leadership opportunities. And so I will say in every leadership program I've been in the different community engagement programs I've been in, I have always been able to articulate how it goes back or ties back into the work that I do daily. And so I truly think it's important for you to be exceptionally well at your daily job, but also if you are looking at other opportunities, what are you doing now to prepare yourself, but still doing exceptionally well in your current role? Because a lot of times we can say, all right, well, I want to be in this role, and we forget about the role that we're in, but we're steadily doing everything else outside of our role and not focusing on the role that we're in. And so the goal is for everything to tie into what you're doing so that one, when performance evaluation time comes, that you can explain the work you've been doing, but two, when you're looking for those leadership opportunities, you can articulate what you have done in order to be the viable candidate for that position or for that role.
Okay, so just a couple of examples of things that I've been involved with in the past. One was when I worked in the graduate school, which was up to 2003. Graduate teaching and research assistants did not have health insurance, yet many of them had families and children. So the university passed a new policy that graduate students who are working as teaching assistants or research assistants or grad assistants, any of those three categories, could get the student health insurance paid for by their department, basically, is who ended up paying. And so we had to implement that program. we ended up having to hire one individual to work directly with the graduate students. Extremely complicated thing to implement. And we had to work with programmers, and we had to work with somebody in student health, and we had to work with a vendor who received the contract, an external vendor. And so it was tough, but it was so rewarding to see the graduate students. They were so grateful that finally they had health insurance beyond student health. So if they had appendicitis, or they broke a leg, or they were getting ready to have a baby, all those things, they now had help doing that, because as you know, graduate students live on a shoestring anyway. So it was hard, but I'm proud that we were able to pull that off for the graduate students, and that program still exists today. Another one, after I went to the College of Agriculture and went to the dean's office around 2009, the person that was in the position before I was a very paper oriented person, and there were stacks of paper just everywhere that were related to promotion and tenure. And that was one of the principal jobs that I did for the dean's office, was faculty promotion and tenure. So it was scary how many stacks of paper there were, and I didn't know what they were there for. Should I keep them? Should I file them? I didn't have any information on that. Anyway, so I initiated a new system for promotion and tenure that Megan's very familiar with, because she inherited it. And so we were able to develop a system whereby promotion and tenure, the dossier for promotion and tenure, became no longer was it a mystery. It became clear to the faculty what they needed to do, the department chair what that person needed to do. And Megan inherited that system, and now she's taken it to a new level. It's now all electronic, which is wonderful. So I'm very proud of that initiative that we took to sort of codify the whole P&T process and make it clear to everyone. The faculty appreciated it, the department chairs appreciated it, and my boss, the dean, Dean Scott Smith, he was very appreciative that this sort of messy thing was no longer a messy thing. It had become something that was doable and feasible, and the instructions were clear to everyone.
Thank you. I would just say, as somebody who did inherit a lot of the work that Lisa put out in front, those things have been incredibly valuable. As somebody who came to UK as the wife of a graduate student, we benefited from being able to have that graduate student health insurance. And then the work that she did codifying the promotion and tenure process within our college has now been digitized, and that just frees up so much more time for our faculty and demystifies it so much. And I think that that's one of the really underappreciated and key aspects of what staff leaders in administration do for universities, is all of the work that goes into codifying things, digitizing things, making processes less opaque. That frees up time for all of the brilliant people of the university to continue to do the brilliant and creative work, both faculty and staff, that makes working at a university so exciting. Speaking of exciting, what are things that you two are currently excited about?
Well, I'll say about the last year or so, I have had the opportunity to mentor young women that are looking to advance in their career. And so it's been exciting just to see how women are really starting to advocate for themselves more and asking the questions that we used to be scared to ask and things like that. And then just also being a cheerleader and being able to really advocate and letting them know that they are enough. Because a lot of times some women think that, well, I don't check all the boxes, so I can't apply. And so I just think it's important for us to have that courage and knowing that we are enough and know that what we bring to the table is enough in order to apply for these positions and going up for leadership and being involved in things of that nature. And so I think mentorship, if I can't say it enough, it is so important. And you just never know. You know, a lot of times we're not very vocal and we will not share or be vulnerable in how we feel or our thoughts. And some of us may be. And I really want folks to start really being more vulnerable, because when we share our story, we start to see a lot of commonalities. And so I just think it's very important for us to bring up what keeps us up at night, but also things in which we're wanting and how we're wanting to advance. And so I just think it's important for groups like this to continue to advocate for one another, to be there to support one another, and really share and be your authentic self, because we really don't know until others really start to be vulnerable and share their stories and how they have gotten to where they are. And also teaching you how to navigate the system, because it is another challenge on how to navigate through the system. And so I just think it's important for us to come together, rally, for one another, and just making sure that we're here to support. And that could be through formal or informal mentorship.
Awesome. Lisa, what are you excited about?
Well, I am excited that I am on Mia Farrell's strategic plan goal 1 team. And I and others are going to be working on that team in the coming months to implement some of the metrics that have been selected for that goal, that involve giving faculty, staff, and students the opportunity to learn about DE&I and to put that into their life skill packet, and to understand it and to make it part of their personality. And so I'm excited to be doing that with Mia.
I'm excited about that too, because I get to benefit from those programs that you all are working on. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about working for UK Cafe, is that we have such a robust and exciting DE&I program and opportunities to learn. So thank you both for your work in that area.
Thank you all.
I have one more written question, and then after that, we'll open it up to any of our audience who want to ask questions. But my last question that I've prepared is, what is something that you wish faculty leaders understood about staff?
So I don't mind to start, and I'll just be very candid in saying that personal and professional development opportunities should not be optional, because the goal is for us to truly grow our staff. And I think it's important for our staff to be provided with these opportunities. I know sometimes we say, well, it's not in our budget line item, so on and so forth, but UK, and I'm sure all the institutions here represented, have amazing resources at our institutions where our staff can be involved in that personal and professional development. And so if I don't say anything else, mentorship and professional development are very important as you are navigating through the system.
Okay, well, I'm going to approach this a little different way, Mia.
Please take it.
So there was something on Facebook the other day. It actually it was a woman from maybe Western or Murray, and she posted, it was something about leftovers from a meeting, leftover food from a meeting. And she said something like, oh, leftovers from a meeting. Don't they know how disrespectful it is to offer the leftovers to staff? And I was like, oh, you just hit a nerve, because one time I don't remember, we'd had some kind of program, and you work yourself to death with the program, make sure that you have the facility, the technology you need, everybody's been invited, you work hard to make an event successful. And then the dean came up to me, and actually his former assistant came up to me and she said, now, you need to fix him a plate of food to take home for his supper tonight. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, oh yeah, I always did that for him. So I'm like, seriously? So I slopped some food on a plate for him and covered it up. And then he came up to me and he said, now I'm going to need you to take the rest of the leftovers back to the building. I was like, good heavens, I'm not about food waste. I don't want to waste food, but you work so hard to do something, and then all of a sudden the end result is, hey, you got to make sure the leftovers are taken care of. So Tricia and Megan know that I'm not a fan of the leftovers, but that's the kind of thing that exemplifies we just want to be respected. Administrators and faculty are automatically respected by virtue of their positions. And that's all we want as staff. We just want to be respected in our roles because we are people too, and we matter, and we have families, we participate in our communities, we do all those things just like they do, but they act like that somehow we're different, and we're not. We're the same. And my hope for them is that they can recognize that. And I'm done now, Mia. I'll get off my soapbox.
No leftovers.
Thank you both. I want to take a few minutes now and open the floor up to our audience. If any of you have any questions for Dr. Farrell or Dr. Collins, please just unmute yourself and ask. Or if you would prefer to type something into the chat, I can read questions too.
I have a question, Megan. This is Tricia Coakley. I'm just curious to know from Lisa and Mia if they have any kind of standard phrase they use or affirmation for themselves when you have to say no, when you have to turn an opportunity down that you really do like the idea of, but you just already have too much on your plate. Because I think leaders easily become overburdened. One of you said earlier today something about being all things to all people. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts on how you navigate that.
Well, this is something I have really been working on. COVID has taught me a lot. And so one of the things that I say is, this is not one of our priorities right now, but how about we meet later down the road in order to revisit what you're wanting to do, and then we may be able to incorporate it in X, Y, and Z. And so I'm not completely Xing out, but I just don't have the capacity right now, and that's not one of our main goals or initiatives right now. And so I just try to make folks feel like their voices are heard, yet and still, if it's not something that we're doing right now, we may be able to revisit it. So that really goes back to that value and making people feel like they are valued and respected.
Yeah, I agree with what Mia is saying, and I always, I let people down as gently as I can, and I praise them all I can, and I tell them how much I appreciate their organization or their task at hand. But at the same time, I'll say, can you get back to me in a year or something like that? Because that's happened. And then in a year, yes, I was able to do whatever the task was. So anyway, be gentle, Tricia, be gentle.
We have one question in the chat, and that is, what advice do you have for initiating mentoring relationships from the leaders or mentors perspective?
Good question.
That's a great one. Do you want to start, Lisa, or would you like me to?
You better go first because I'm thinking about this one, Mia.
Okay, absolutely. So I will say what has worked for me. I have really looked at, my career currently and look 5 years or 10 years from now, and just, I don't know exactly what I want to be or who I want to be. But I mean, hypothetically, there are opportunities out there that may be of interest to me. And so I basically have drop cold emails to a few folks and learn about their position, learn about the different roles and responsibilities of their staff, learn about data, so on and so forth, because I think it's important as you are trying to, navigate and trying to figure out where you're wanting to go. It's important to really understand their role and responsibilities, and if that is really what you want to do. And so, like I said, I do have 4 mentors. A couple of them are in roles that are comparable to my role at 1862 and at 1890 institutions. And so just trying to be more well-rounded and really trying to understand the different avenues to take. Even like different webinars may come up on different platforms and things, and it may be of interest to me, and I may attend those webinars or go to training, so on and so forth. And so it just depends on what your trajectory is and what your outcome as far as your career is. But I would say LinkedIn has been tremendous as well, because you can see who has worked at certain companies and their respective roles and things like that. And so it just depends. And then I'll even say with the cold emails, I've just found the emails on the university website and kind of just introduce myself and go from there. No one has told me no yet, so I guess it works.
So that's good, Mia. And it makes me think about the program that's in Cafe that started a few years ago. There is actually a mentoring program in our college. And so it is administered by our human resources people in the college. And so if any of you are interested in finding out more about that program and how it works, we would be glad to hook you up with the people who run that program to see if your institution would be interested in a similar thing in your college or your unit. Because it's an official program now, and a lot of people participate in it. I think if I wanted someone, if I in my mind said, oh gosh, that person is terrific and doing a wonderful job, I really wish that person would be my mentor, I would not hesitate to just simply ask. And ask with, I know you're busy, I know you don't have much time, but I'm wondering if we could talk about this and then set up some parameters so that this is not a burden for you. And I think most people would be very receptive to doing something like that.
And I will say it's a two-way street. I've learned a lot from my mentees as well. So definitely take advantage of the opportunity.
I think also, to get to Dr. Kimmel's question, a good way to initiate those relationships from the leader mentor's perspective is just to invite people to things. Mia has invited me to the Junior Manners Conference, which I learned an exceptional amount from. Lisa's invited me and made it known that I've welcome to participate in professional development opportunities. And even with ACE, Dr. Cardarelli invited me to be part of the ACE network. And I really value the mentorship from those three exceptional leaders, and just the invitations that they extended to me. At this point, we're wrapping up. And so I want to thank Dr. Collins and Dr. Farrell for their time. And I also want to hand it over to Dr. Kimmel, our chair of our chapter of the ACE network, to talk a little bit about ACE and upcoming events for the rest of the semester. And while she does that, I'm going to drop a survey into the chat, and I'd really appreciate if you all just take a few minutes to do that survey so that we can get some feedback on our programming for the network. Dr. Kimmel?
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Dr. Farrell and Dr. Collins, for your wonderful session today. I know I really needed to hear everything you said, because I am currently in a doctoral program and I am in that kind of mid-career point where I am seeking mentorships, but also mentoring other people. So I really needed to hear your message today. So thank you. Thank you to everyone for attending. As Megan mentioned, we do have a couple of upcoming professional development workshops that we would love for you to join us for. Our March workshop will be on Friday, March 24th. It will be facilitated by Dr. Cynthia Ganode and Dr. Faye Jones from the University of Louisville, and they will be presenting on microaggressions. So please join us for that really important conversation. And then our spring workshop series concludes with our President's Panel, and that will be on April 8th at 2 o'clock Eastern. And it will feature Dr. Rosemary Allen from Georgetown College, Dr. Cindy Kelly from Madisonville Community College, and Dr. Bob Jackson from Murray State. So we're really excited for both of those events, and you can find out more on our website. Thank you all.